Here's Gilgeous-Alexander. McCollum staying with him. Spins, gets inside. Left-handed off the glass. Oh, what a sweet move.
Giddy, tough spot. Backdoor. What a pass. What a play. And J-Dub picks the pocket of Trae Young. He'll take it himself.
This is Lou Dort. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Uncontested Weekly Show on this Wednesday night, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and now proudly sponsored by Dave's Hot Chicken, one of my favorite places to eat, and Spark OKC, one of my other favorite places to eat. Ooh. I am your host for this evening, JD Silva, joined by three fellas. First one being Jacob Niffen.
What's up?
Second one being Nicholas Crane.
Got that number 2 slot. I'm rising not only in the standings on predicting games, but also on the intro. So it's a good thing to see.
And last but certainly not least, Taylor Peterson.
Certainly not least. Minor setback for a major comeback.
Exactly.
So, kept saying.
Exactly. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating if you haven't done so already. You can find us on Twitter, X, you may call it now. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok.
Taylor, how's TikTok going? You still keeping up with it? Like you said?
It's been great. All-Star break. You know, I've also been on a bit of an all-star break on TikTok, but numbers
Taylor's
are booming.
all-star break just starts in October and ends in March.
Our comments are already firing
Every
away.
time Jacob doesn't wear a hat.
It is. Hey,
Every time there's
I'm
comments.
embracing it.
You should.
We're here.
Looks
You
great.
look good,
Hey,
dude.
while you
Don't
guys
let
are
the
here
balls get to you.
flaming me in the comments, go drop a like on the YouTube video as well, please.
That's the least you all could do for this.
At least
slander.
you could do.
If we get to 4,000 subs by
End of season? Okay.
Jacob will not only come on the show without a hat, but he will also have the avatar arrow painted on his forehead. That's a big number. 4K
That
is a
seems
lot.
like a
4K is a
a
lot.
hair bet.
Do you agree, Jacob? 4K.
Doesn't have to be a
I'll-
tattoo.
Oh,
No, obviously. Goodness gracious.
Not a tat.
Just wanted to
Not a tat.
clarify.
You can get just like a magic marker. Just go to town.
Yeah.
It's like my grandma.
Silva has
it's called a
volunteered to draw
Sharpie,
the
dude.
arrow.
have you guys
Magic
seen the
marker.
TikTok of the little kid that's painting his face blue with the washable marker? And he says, his mom says, what are you doing? He said, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. And then the follow-up comment he has, which is not podcast friendly,
Oh,
so I
God.
cannot say it.
No.
I will share it with you later. If you're in the comments or listening and you know what I'm talking about, it's one of the funniest videos I've watched. I've met my quota of F-bombs on the podcast this season, so I can't talk anymore about this TikTok video.
Okay. Oh, do we all have a quota? I need to do some research into that.
Yeah, I think Nick's got his in the bank for the Rockets game.
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, that's a good one. I'll save mine for the next Mavs game, probably. See how that goes.
Taylor, where are you going to
great.
drop your one F-bomb of the year at?
When we make it to the Western Conference Finals, obviously.
Oh, so Taylor's
Nice.
going with a good F-bomb, not a bad F-bomb.
2025, Taylor, huh?
Your F bombs do not carry over to the following season. Just so you know.
Get
Yeah,
it out
it's
now.
It's not like your time off hours.
Right. Boys, the Thunder are back after a feels like forever. It's been a while. We say often on this podcast.
Long time.
Been a while. It's been so long that we've had NBA basketball that we now have 2 NBA players, one former, one current, who are both doing very well in the media space, just attacking each other online, and JJ Redick and Patrick Beverly. And I'm like, brother, we need basketball more than ever right now. Just give us the games, please.
We had Nick Wright stepping up today.
Yeah.
A fellow Chiefs man, Nick Wright, I may add.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a lot of discourse around
we
the
need
league right now.
need tomorrow night needs to get here.
Well,
Every
even-
podcast on my feed that's NBA related has been, how do we fix the All-Star game? How do we fix the All-Star game?
Not just the Thunder, but like I've been a League Pass guy for a while now. Some of you guys became Jason Tatum fans recently and got
I've always loved that guy.
Love those shoes. Great shoes.
got some League Pass access as well. But I've been a League Pass guy for at least 4 or 5 years now. Just to like have it in the background. Like there's something about like cooking dinner, like on your phone, do whatever, having some kind of game in the background, just like watching hoops, like we all love to do.
Yeah.
And like the first 3 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's just been weird. It's just like,
It sucks.
What do I watch? Like, there's nothing to put on the TV. I'll turn it on and it's like some random West Coast mid-major basketball schools playing at 11 o'clock at night instead of like Warriors Lakers. It's just not the same vibe.
Not the same. And also, we're out of the All-Star break. No football going on. Nothing to conflict with the national games. We'll have a lot more national games as well.
Yep.
So that'll be fun.
Speaking of random stuff being on in the background, Nick, there is nothing better than probably 10 years ago, watching playoff basketball late at night on TNT. You accidentally leave the TV on. You wake up at 2 a.m., do a Bones rerun. Just beautiful, beautiful. You don't get that anymore with streaming. I miss the good old days.
I know.
Nothing better than a Bones rerun.
Yep. Hey, Silva, before we dive in, Nick was out in Indianapolis. Nick, can you give us the TLDR version of your experience out at All-Star Weekend?
Yes. Maybe an unfair assessment of the city of Indianapolis, but it was horrific weather. Also a function of my poor planning. I looked at the weather forecast on like Monday or Tuesday when I started thinking about packing. It was like, I don't know, low of 35, 40, high of, 50, 55. Like the weekend before it was in the 60s. The weekend after supposed to be in the 60s. So I didn't pack anything besides like in terms of warm weather clothes, a sweater and a couple hoodies. And we land, and I sent you guys a video in the Slack.
Yeah.
It's snowing 6 inches. All plans, like I jam-packed my schedule. Like I had plans of doing All-Star stuff and OTE stuff and Basketball Without Borders stuff. And it was like back to back to back to back. Or I was going to be like Ubering everywhere I went. Ended up being like $400 of Ubers.
Holy
course of the weekend,
smokes.
which is a lot. A function of supply demand and surges and all that kind of stuff. But it took me like an hour and 15 minutes at certain points of the weekend to get an Uber because there was not many people driving because of the weather. And it was a lot. Everybody wanted an Uber because they couldn't walk in most All-Star weekends. You've got like the convention center, you've got the main court, you've got another court, and you can walk. It's like a 20-minute walk. Like we do at Summer League, right? We walk to UNLV. When it's 3 degrees and snowing, all of a sudden you don't want to walk, you want to catch a ride, and everyone wants a ride at the same time. So the city itself, I need to go back and assess it. Not a fan of Indy, though, based on that experience. The All-Star experience, that was my second All-Star to do. It was cool. Like seeing... My biggest takeaway is like we're in this OKC bubble, and like we know that Shea is a superstar, and we know that Shea is a top player in this league, but you don't conceptualize how big of a star he is until you see him in a national setting where like All-Star practice, 6 players get the actual interview room. Everybody else gets jam-packed into this practice court and gets like media all around them. Shea was one of the 6 in the entire NBA that got the interview room. And every event he went to, like, I'm not kidding you, there was a line for autographs and pictures that was probably 1,000 people long.
Wow.
And just seeing him partner with like Canada Goose and AT&T, and like his face was everywhere. The dude is a superstar. Like he is, we know that in OKC, but I think it's officially like he is a worldwide icon now. So it was cool to see a guy from OKC have that kind of pedestal at All-Star Weekend. I'm not in the camp that's super pissed about the All-Star game. Like it's not supposed to, I don't think it's supposed to be like all this big competitive thing. We all know that in the summer we've said this before, we would pay money to watch these guys go play pickup and like these Chris Brickley runs, and like we talked about the Embiid Chet runs. Like we'd pay money to watch that.
Nico Hines and
right.
UCLA.
We'd pay money to watch that, but we won't for free watch the same guys run up and down and throw alley-oop dunks and play no defense the same way they do in that kind of setting. So
I don't think it's quite the same in the summer.
Also, this summer we are thirsting.
That's a good
content.
point.
We are.
It's all supply and demand. Like you haven't watched the guys play in a while, but they're not playing that much defense in those runs because of injury reasons too. Like, they're probably playing a little bit more defense, but if you go watch like the Black Ops runs, it's not a whole lot. They're like pulling it from half court. It's BS.
Ben Simmons is an all-star in the offseason.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. No, it was a good weekend overall. Worth the trip. Ready for San Fran, I think. Never been. Jacob, you've been.
San Fran's awesome.
Fran
don't listen to Charles Barkley. San Francisco.
Okay.
I've got some food directs for you when you're
Okay.
out there. Cool place. Cool place.
San Fran and LA are the next 2 years, which is quite the difference from like the Chicago, Cleveland, Salt Lake, Indy stretch that we've been on. So next year, I think there could be multiple All-Stars, which would be kind of cool. So
Agreed. Hey, before we move on from the All-Star stuff, the league recently announced its updated requirements to host All-Star game. You have to have 7,250 hotel rooms and a minimum of 3 5-star hotels. You have to have a convention center that's at least 650,000 square feet of exhibition space. It's not the convention center in totality, just the exhibition space.
Yeah.
And 75 nonstop domestic flights and at least 20 nonstop international flights to your airport to host NBA All-Star Weekend. Long story short, folks, doesn't matter when the new arena comes out for OKC. We're not getting an All-Star Weekend.
Okay, so I know Joe put out a story, and Joe's awesome and kind of put this in the spotlight. I have not read it or like looked into it yet. Is the assumption the big holdup there is the convention center space and not the
I think it's the
hotels or
flights.
You think so?
I was thinking
That's the first
20
thing that stood out to
international.
me.
There's not a single international flight that comes into Oklahoma City.
I haven't looked it up yet, but
I
yeah.
haven't looked that up at all. I think the convention center space. Like, do you guys remember going to at Summer League? There was like that fan crossover event thing where you go and it's just
NBA
like
Con.
NBA Con. Okay, so at All-Star Weekend, it's called crossover. It's the same concept. It's just like booths and vendors and crossovers and collabs and events and games, and it's a massive space. But you also have to have space for events. Like almost everywhere has 2 courts. So like you could do the old, I guess the current Paycom and the new arena, so you fit that bill. The convention center space, I just have no clue in OKC where that would ever be a possibility.
Well, so the Thunder did Media Day. Nick, you and I went in that convention center spot. That
I
they
don't
just
think
built.
that's even
That's
close
not,
to big enough. I don't
Exactly.
think we didn't see the whole thing, but
that was my point.
based on that, like that at the Omni you're talking about, like that little convention,
Right.
like, that is
That's not big
nothing
enough.
compared to what we like in Vegas when we went to that NBA Con thing.
Last thing, and we're going to transition because we got to get into some of the content, Silva. But the Omni in Oklahoma City, the end of January, so just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they hosted an anime con. So don't get me wrong, like Silva and I are anime nerds, right? My wife is a big anime nerd. So no shade at any, but we know what anime folks are generally like.
Bunch of
Same
dorks
day,
like us.
same day, same conference center. They also had a boat and tractor show.
Goodness.
It's a
That is
hell of a
quite,
crossover.
quite the crossover there. Yeah, that's a
Hell of a
complete
crossover.
opposite
Jeez.
fan bases. That's
All right, JD.
For reference, real quick too, just like on a single Google, it's crazy what the internet can do these days. The OKC Convention Center that we're referring to, although it's 500,000 square feet in totality, like the actual exhibit hall space, which is where all the vendors and stuff are, is only 200,000 square
and
feet.
it needs to be 650.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cooked.
So we're talking like 1/3 the size.
Cooked.
We're cooked. It's not happening.
Hey, when they build that new hotel resort thing with the tallest
We don't
skyscraper in
need
the
a
world,
big convention center when we got the world's or the country's tallest building as an apartment
you
complex
just
in
split it up
OKC.
by 4. 4's 1 through 50.
Just
NBA
have it
con.
outside at the fairgrounds.
Now we're talking
During the gun show. All right, we got to move
big
on.
league city.
All right. Hey, the Thunder play a basketball game tomorrow against the Clippers.
Hey.
Finally,
Hey, it's a big game. The Thunder are 20 games above 500 at 37-17. The Clippers, 36-17. So that's a big one for playoff seeding. I believe the Thunder only play. Do they play the Clippers anymore after this one? Is that it?
After tomorrow night, they do not play the Clippers, the Nuggets, or the Wolves again. They're done.
That's big.
That's big.
And all those teams play each other quite a bit.
Okay. So tomorrow's game. I don't know if you guys saw Mark's quote about practice today, mentioning how the guys were coming back and practicing. He was like, "Do you guys want to practice more?" And they were like, "Hell yeah!" And then they went for like 3 more hours, and he had to cut them off because they were practicing so hard. That got me pretty pumped about the game tomorrow.
That reminds me so much of like the Thunder 1.0 era.
Yeah,
with young KD and Russ
like a hunger.
and Kendrick was talking about coming in, and yeah, they do a lot of things very similar. That's like the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. Back when Silva was like 7 years old.
Yep.
Exactly.
Also,
We all
tomorrow
had.
will be the debut of Gordon Hayward. It sounds like Bismack Biyombo will be available, but probably not play, I would assume. Mark kind of confirmed that he's kind of going to be situational. Some of the discourse on Gordon Hayward has been interesting to me, guys. I love some of the euphemisms that Mark Daignault uses. Said with Gordon Hayward, we're going to measure twice, cut once, which I think is interesting. Like, they're basically saying they're going to like take it real slow, make sure things are in the right position, make sure things are progressing correctly. I don't think Hayward plays 20 minutes tomorrow night, Nick.
No.
Maybe 10 to 15.
He's going to be the guy that after game 1, all the trolls on Twitter are going to say, Gordon Hayward trade. He played 12 minutes and went 1 of 4 from the floor. It's no surprise. Like if I would have asked you a week ago, Jacob, what's Mark's presser going to sound like whenever he talks about Gordon, and we all would have said it's slow play and integrate him in at the right pace, and we're not going to throw him out there. He could, like, same with Biyombo. Like, I know it's situational. You could argue the Clippers have 3 solid 7-foot centers. They don't have like a dominant center, but they have 3 really good rotation guys. Maybe situationally he is a good guy for tomorrow. But I think with both of those new additions, you can't judge them based on what they do in February or even maybe like March. It's April in the playoffs. Like they didn't trade for these guys for the last 28 games of the regular season, frankly.
I agree with that.
What are you guys looking for tomorrow night?
Well, one note on Hayward. Like, Mark is notorious for, the only term that's like coming to my mind right now is under promising and over delivering. He always has these types of comments, but I could totally see tomorrow. I mean, Hayward's had the entire All-Star break off, starting to ramp back up. Obviously, you want to integrate him into the team.
It's been off since Christmas, buddy.
Yeah, true. Well, yes.
Taylor just
All-Star break.
We lost you there for a second. It puts
that
you
was
in the
weird.
puts you in the reserve room.
You got put in timeout, buddy.
I got put in timeout for my Hayward hot take. Well, basically, I could see where we see some spot minutes for him in the first half, a little more maybe in the third quarter. We don't see him at all in the fourth up until the very end. It's a close game against the Clippers. They want to win it. All of a sudden, we see Hayward come in and close with the starters. Like, I could see something like that happening. It's like, yeah, we're ramping him up, but I kind of want to win this game, and we see Hayward down the stretch.
I don't know if he'll close tomorrow night, but I think within 10 to 15 games, he's closing pretty much all the games for OKC. Yeah. I feel pretty confident about that. Tomorrow's
all right. I'll go back to my timeout hole.
The last time these two teams played, they the Thunder lost out in LA. The time before that, there was no Kawhi. The Thunder beat the Clippers and OKC. That game in LA was really competitive, and it was a insanely hot PG at the end of the game that just kind of went supernova and won it.
Bad night for Chet too, from what I remember.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what tomorrow night looks like. Both teams fresh coming out of the All-Star break. I made a prediction on Sunday that I think Shea and Dub go for 30 each again. The matchups, the cross matchups, all of it's going to be really fascinating. What do the Thunder do if the Clippers decide to do the whole put the big on Josh Giddey and use Kawhi on Chet Holmgren or something like that? How do they adjust to that? I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup, and it's a pretty pivotal one for standings.
I'm really curious how the Clippers approach things offensively. I think it's going to be a test for the defense. Also, obviously, if you feel comfortable with Dort on Harden, and that's happened before, does well enough. You have PG and Kawhi. You assume it's going to be like an SGA, J-Dub type of deal.
Yeah, and speaking of that, JD, I don't know if you remember the last game. Sorry, not to cut you off real quick, but I just want to get this point in as you're talking. The last game in LA, that was the matchup, and the Clippers tried to like post Shea up over and over and over again, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, like the Clippers are a really good test case for the size thing, because you always think about whenever the people say the Thunder don't know how to deal with size, it's always like they don't know how to deal with Jokic or like bigs and that level of size. The Clippers have a different shade of that, where all their size is in the wing position, guys that are just a little taller, stronger, way more. They're all veterans, and they can, J-Dub is still young. He's obviously like bulked up a ton in 1 year, but he's a second-year guy. I think he's going to do well enough, but SGA is on the leaner side. Lou Dort's a little small if one of those guys gets matched up. So I wonder what that's going to look like, and I wonder if who they want to attack. Like, do they want to attack SGA again, like you were saying, Jacob, in the post, or do they want to try and get Josh switched onto them and go at it in that direction? I don't know.
That's going to be a really fun game. I'm really excited for it.
Predictions on the final score? Is it going to be close? Is it going to be a blowout? What are we thinking?
I think it's a close one.
It's probably a dumb question. It's in OKC, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, it's at a normal time, so it must
home.
Be. Right.
Yeah.
How much does Josh play?
I had like 22 minutes in my head.
Give me sub 20.
Ooh. You think
that's been the trend against the bigger, better teams in the West.
Is that a bet?
I mean, like, you're wanting to bet something on that?
Yeah.
What do you want to bet?
Another sandwich?
Did you ever get your sandwich, JD?
I did. It was delicious. Thank you, Nick.
Hey, what kind did you get?
Had to pay twice the amount that I expected. Jimmy John's didn't deliver to JD's apartment complex. So I had to post,
like, not far.
I had to Postmates.
Had to walk this delivery person through the delivery process.
I had to Postmates a different sandwich shop that was more expensive, plus the delivery fee, plus the taxes. So I learned my lesson, and we will not ever bet Jimmy John's with Jay DeSilva again. That's a fact.
Well, while you all were talking, I was looking up my key of the game, which for me, I think is 3-point percentage. I'm going to hold off going down a deep rabbit hole till we get to our special segment coming up. However, the Thunder are second in the league in 3-point percentage at 39.3, while the Clippers are first at 39.5%. So shout out to StatMuse. While you guys were talking, I was able to do a little, it's kind of like Google for basketball, or for NBA basketball, which is nice. The Thunder this season are shooting 47.1% from three versus Clippers to the Clippers 43% against the Thunder, and they're 1-1 in that matchup. I think 3-point percentage is going to be huge for this team. We saw Norman Powell come off the bench and torch the Thunder from three the last time they played, even after Paul George, which is going crazy, and Kawhi obviously getting to his spots. I think that's going to be really interesting to monitor. How are the Thunder able to guard the perimeter and throw different bodies at some of these guys like Paul George, Powell? Obviously, Paul George and Kawhi, when they're playing together, you throw Russ in there. Like it'll be fascinating to see the different matchups, I think, now that we're later into the season post All-Star break.
Yeah, Jacob, to your bet, guess the last two games against the Clippers. Guess Josh's minutes played in both those games.
22 and 25.
19 and 14.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, dang, 14.
I don't think he'll play much. I really don't. I know a lot of people get in the comments on the YouTube here and like criticize us for what we say about Josh. Like, I want Josh to succeed. I want Josh to be, and he could turn it around. Totally could turn it around. But when you look at what's happening right now, and you look at it through like an unbiased, non-blue and orange lens, like his minutes are going down and down and down. His production is going down. And that's nobody's fault. It's just he doesn't fit the role that he's playing right now. Maybe bringing Gordon Hayward shifts Josh over to a different role that he's more comfortable in. Maybe by the time the playoffs get here, he's playing 35 minutes a night. Could happen. But the trend right now is it's going poorly. And I think at least early on out of this All-Star break, that is the trend we will continue to see.
And before the All-Star break, we saw Josh playing better, especially that Orlando game, the last game before the All-Star break.
Game, they didn't put a big on him.
Exactly. So I'm curious. That's my point. It's like, do we see Zubac or whoever else out there guard like another center guarding Josh Giddey? Who do they guard Giddey with? I think that will be pretty telling for what the Thunder need to do rotation-wise heading into this game. And again, it just kind of comes down to matchups. I'm fascinated to see how they start the game against Josh Giddey in the starting five.
I have another really good way we could break down ways that the Thunder could win this game. And that's with our new segment from our beloved sponsor, Spark OKC. Spark joy at Scissortail Park's family-friendly joint Spark. Dive into their menu of burgers, bites, and cold delights. Don't skip the must-try BLC burger, pink fries, my favorite item on the menu, frozen peach club special, also delicious, and rotating custard flavored of the month. You guys had their custard?
I have not had their custard yet.
I need to. Big fan of custard, though.
Maybe live podcast here towards the end of the season when we're all there. We get the
custard sampling.
I like it.
Located directly west of the Paycom Center, Spark is the best spot to hit before or after a Thunder game. We all know 2 scoops or even 3 scoops of custard is better than 1, so be on the lookout for Spark number 2 and 3 coming to Chisholm Creek and Nichols Hills later this spring and summer. Boys, it's time for us to pick our Spark of the week. It's going to be a player, a concept, a lineup that we think will spark and drive the Thunder this week. And
before we do, Silva.
Yes.
So as a non-Oklahoma City resident and as somebody that wants to go to Spark, I'm sure if I'm thinking it, listeners that have not been are thinking it. What is a pink fry?
It's a secret, Nick. Okay, yes. So they don't actually tell you on the menu.
They don't.
But as someone who's had the pink fries multiple times because it's the go-to item alongside their incredible burgers, it's like a little bit of a truffle sauce. It's kind of like truffle fries, but it's like their own special house-made sauce. It's fantastic.
Maybe some garlic involved.
You know what? Yeah, definitely some garlic involved.
They're very pink.
I work downtown, very close to Spark. Thursdays are kind of our cheat lunch where we all go out and and do something more like burgers and stuff rather than like a wrap or a salad or whatever.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I go hit up Spark and send Nick a picture and our followers a picture.
I just Googled it. It actually is pink.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's like they drizzle
like Pepto-Bismol pink.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're like me and you've not been to Spark and OKC, Google these pink fries because they look phenomenal. Apparently, they're part of OKC Restaurant Week recently. This looks really good. Okay, when I come to OKC next, we got to go get some pink fries. Sorry for the delay, Silva.
Oh, it's great.
Continue us on. I had
very
I was
important question.
Thinking, what the hell is a pink fry?
Yeah,
the fries aren't actually pink, but it's their
toppings are
nice. Yeah,
yes.
right.
The order I've gotten like 2 of the 3 times I've gone, I get the like Shaka Spark Burger, which is like jalapenos and like pineapple and
the pineapple on top. Yes,
for those that are live right now, look how good that looks.
Yeah, holy cow!
Oh,
that's it. Lunch is decided for tomorrow.
I kind of mess with crinkle fries, guys.
Dude, yes, I agree.
Crinkle fries
slept on.
They're good.
They're
agreed.
So okay, well,
all right. Spark of the week.
Spark of the week.
I got one for you. You ready?
Let it rip.
I went on a Canadian NBA show today, audio only.
I didn't know that.
Be dropping tonight, and so I will. Both my personal and the pod accounts on socials will push that out. They asked me this really fun question of like, who is the player on the Thunder that like the NBA, like the dad who doesn't watch to the playoffs and then sees a guy play and says, man, my team should trade for that guy. He's awesome. Who was that guy for the Thunder? I went with Isaiah Joe. And I think Isaiah Joe is going to need to be the spark, especially Thursday night, for the OKC Thunder to go out and get a win against the Clippers. His floor spacing, obviously the shooting, I think specifically like the screen to guard screen action. I think all of those are very important. I could see Joe having a very important night and being basically what Norman Powell was for the Clippers out in Los Angeles a couple months ago or a month and a half ago, whenever that game was. I could see Joe filling that role of a guy that comes in and goes like 4 or 5 from 3, and it's just the one that breaks your back.
Isaiah Joe's a really good selection. I've honestly not forgotten about him, but I feel like he hasn't had like the microwave scoring aspect, I feel like, as much as he did the first like third of the season. He's another guy that kind of, I don't know, it's felt like he's not disappeared in games. Like the pressure is always there when he's on the court, but more often than not, he gets ran off the 3-point line and then passes it out. And like the spacing is good. You know, he can make a 3 still. I kind of wish he would shoot more, but I don't know.
I will go my spark of the week. I think, 2 things. One is not a player. One is a concept or philosophy. And that is come out and throw the first punch in the first quarter.
Agreed.
That is like, especially, I mean, I know this is not, tomorrow night is not a afternoon game, but when Oklahoma City got their butts beat in Dallas, there was a very clear post game, like, we've got to come out in these games. This is a theme that we saw like in all of January and part of February with them being so tired, but the crazy schedule. Come out and throw the first punch, and they did the very next game, and they won over the Kings. Throw the first punch. I think if the Thunder win the first quarter, like tell me this. Quick answer. If the Thunder are leading out to the first quarter tomorrow night, how confident are you they win the game?
80%.
So the Clippers, but I would say fairly confident.
Pretty damn confident.
Yeah.
That's why I went 80.
I think, if they win the first quarter, I think that they've got the perfect stagger lineup in the third and the fourth that works very well. It's like statistically proven it works very well. First quarter, first half, if they win either or both of those, they should win the game. My actual player spark of the week is Kenrich Williams, because he has not been great over the last month or 2 months. And he is a player that we all know does not need to play a lot of minutes or have the ball in his hands to make a significant impact. So if he can get back on track and like get back to the Kenrich that we all know, this team hits like a whole new level.
I love those. I love both of those. And Nick, I wish, like, I agree with your original point or your original theme wholeheartedly, and wish I had those lineup numbers pulled up. And I also like that you went with both a theme kind of and a player, because Jacob went with a specific player that kind of leads to my theme. So I have a theme for Spark of the Week. Bear with me here. I have stats. I promise it's not that long.
That's what she said.
But it kind of alluding to something I mentioned earlier against the Clippers, I think will be a big theme for this team, but really just moving forward throughout the rest of the season. And all of the Thunder's win this season, this is per NBAstats.com. I did a little homework prior to the podcast. The Thunder in those wins are shooting 41.4% from 3 on 33.4 3-point attempts per game. In their losses, they're shooting 34.9% on 35 3-point attempts per game. So they're shooting less on more attempts. On the season, they're averaging 39.3% from 3 on 34 3-point attempts per game. So we're seeing those 3-point attempts stay about the same. So if you haven't guessed by now, and I mentioned the Clippers being first in the league in 3-point percentage, the Thunder 3-point shooting is my spark of the week. Jacob looks like he's second guessing me.
No, you said they're shooting less on more attempts, and it took me a second.
Slightly more.
So it sounded like they're shooting less attempts on more attempts was how I interpreted it at the beginning.
Sorry.
And I was like,
no.
What?
Percentage wise, they're makes.
Yes, gotcha.
So basically, when they're stacking up threes and aren't getting good looks, aren't hitting their shots, they're a little more three prone. They're losing those games, but when they're effective from outside, spacing the floor, that opens up the floor so much more for guys like J-Dub, Shea, even Josh Giddey, now Gordon Hayward. I'm curious to see how that looks.
So your spark of the week is make more threes. Shooting. I think that's fair.
It's a good spark to have. Mine, it's a little weird. Might not see it at all. But it's a lineup. It's a lineup with J-Dub and Gordon Hayward. That's all I want to see. I want to see that. I want to see how they play off each other, if they do it all. If Gordon's just like standing in the corner while J-Dub's running offense, or if there's a little two-man game going on. I want to see it. So I don't know. We might
like
get for
it.
5 minutes.
I think they play well together. I also think that Gordon Hayward plays the J-Dub and Shea role when neither are on the floor. So I'm almost curious if they don't play a lot together, because he, even at 33, has the creation, ball handling, facilitation, get to his spot type game. He can also play off ball very well. But the same way we see J-Dub kind of take over as like the number one option when Shea's on the floor, I think there's those minutes where neither are on the floor, and it's like usually like Josh trying to figure things out. I think Gordon is going to have stretches this season where we're like, this guy's cooking as the number one option. Maybe not tomorrow. Like again, he might play 12 minutes tomorrow, but it'll be fun.
That was my initial reaction as well. Silva, like J-Dub and Hayward together is going to be a lot of fun, but the 2-man lineup with Hayward that I'm most interested in is Josh Giddey. And I think that allows, kind of to Nick's point, J-Dub and Shea to play a little more together, and also kind of shores up that lineup when, like Nick said, neither of Shea or Dub are on the floor. Like, that'll be fascinating to watch and see how those lineups look, and maybe gives this team a little more, depth, obviously, heading into the postseason. But I think it could give them some, it allows Josh to play a little more on ball. Just, it kind of plays more to their strengths. So
some sparks of the week in the comments section, guys. Adam says his spark of the week was Shea's deep three or the lob off the backboard at the All-Star game.
Grief.
Smoot says his spark of the week is J-Dub continues the scoring streak. I'm on record for that one as well. Nick Jordan says spark of the week is the Thunder defense shuts down Paul George.
Ooh,
that's going to be a fun matchup.
Had that ESPN article from McMahon today.
Yes, I read it. Very good.
Yeah.
And are they good? His spark of the week. Don't know about spark of the week, but the spark that brings me life are these post-game interviews.
The dog.
Bingo.
Beautiful.
So
aren't we all looking for the spark that brings us life?
I'm still searching.
It's time to take an ad break.
The real spark is friends we made along the way.
Exactly. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back from our ad break. Let's have a little discussion with 28 games remaining about the ceiling and the floor of the Thunder team.
I was told
not our ceiling and our
roof is the ceiling. Yes,
the ceiling is the roof.
Let's before we talk ceiling and floor 28 games, I think we've got some probably specific matchups we want to talk about, and like the start of the stretch. It is a perfect split, 14-14, home and road.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 4-game road trip and a 5-game road trip along
Those
the
are
way.
big.
There are 2 4-game homestands, one of which is the final 4 games of the regular season. Will that matter? Will it not? Probably will this year.
To some extent, for sure.
Sure.
It's nice.
It did this year. Oklahoma City also, I think it's the 7th best in terms of like favorability, strength of schedule. I think the
24th, Nick, in difficulty. Their combined opponents for the rest of the stretch are currently at a 48 game or 48 percentage, 1%. The only teams that have easier schedules than the Thunder would be Golden State, Memphis, Miami, Boston, Brooklyn, and Orlando.
So teams that don't matter in the grand scheme of things with understanding. So I think to just set the stage on this like next conversation we're about to have, the Thunder should be the favorite in a lot of games down the stretch, whether they execute or not. It's the NBA. You could have the easiest strength of schedule and have a really tough go of it. They have a real chance to secure the number 1 seed in the West ultimately. But on the floor side of things, what I think we'll talk about as well, they don't really have to, and it's still like a bonkers 50-win season. So Silva, I'll let you like open up initial questions, thoughts you have on the final 28, but I think that was an interesting tidbit to give some context to what these games look like.
Can I add a little more context to that?
Yes, please.
The Thunder, difficult games remaining. The game against the Clippers tomorrow night. They got one more against Boston in Boston. They got the Bucks twice, the Suns twice. They got to go to Madison Square Garden, and they got the Pelicans. Flip side of that coin, they still play the Wizards once at home. They got 2 more with the Spurs, 1 more with the Charlotte Hornets, which scares the shit out of me because Trey Mann might go for 50. 1 against Portland, 1 in Toronto. We have some fun news about that Toronto away game coming up maybe next week on the pod, and 2 more against the Memphis Grizzlies. So those easy games are pretty easy.
One of those Suns games sticks out to Bucks. One of those Suns games sticks out to me in early March because they play in Phoenix on national TV. I believe it's a TNT game, and then they play the Lakers immediately the next day on a Sega Baba against the Lakers on like NBA TV. So technically national TV. Regardless, that's a pretty tough stretch as well.
Also, Nuggets and Wolves play 3 more times. Nuggets versus Clippers happens 1 more time. And then Clippers versus Timberwolves happens 2 more times. So that's 5 games of those teams going against each other, which are the teams that the Thunder are competing with for that number 1 seed.
Significant.
So let's talk about, so if they go 14-14, that'll put them at 51 wins. They go 500.
14 would be, I think you guys would agree, incredibly disappointing to close the season.
Probably worst case scenario.
It would. What is the floor of this record? Like, is that the worst case scenario? 500?
I think 50 is the floor.
I agree.
Yeah.
50 wins on the season. That is stupid.
Bonkers. And I don't even know what seed would 50 wins get you in this Western Conference?
4.
I was going to say they'll be 4th or 5th.
I think so.
And if that happens, I think it's because of an injury.
You have to think like the top 4 is in a different tier than 5. Like 5 through 8 is kind of its own thing, or 5, 6, 7. I think Jacob, you may have this pulled up. I think they are probably, off top memory, at least 5 games ahead of the 5th seed right now in the West.
I do have it pulled up. Give me a 1 second. Thunder are 1.5 games out of 1st. The Suns are in 5th. They are 6 games out, so that is a 4.5 game lead.
Okay. So if the Thunder were to go, if we say the floor is 500 and 14-14, the Suns would have to go something like, there's no math on this pod, we've established that.
No math.
Like 18-10 or something in that ballpark.
That's crazy.
To jump the Thunder if they were to hit their floor. So all that to say, it would take a crazy close to the year for the Thunder not to be top 4 and host in the first round. So like, blanket statement, what's the floor? The floor is hosting a first round playoff series.
I agree. I just looked through the schedule of the last 28, and I tried to be fair and unbiased and looked at which games will the Thunder, not that I think they will win, which games should they be favored in, and just chalk those ones up as wins. If they just do that, I think there's 17 games they will be favored in for sure. That puts them at 54 wins.
They will be favored in much more than 17.
That's kind of how I feel too. I think that feels low.
If they just beat, so there is at least 8 games this year in which the team they're playing, 8 games the rest of the season against teams that have not won more than 20 games yet. So, and you're never going to beat all those teams. There's going to be the game where you lose to one of those teams and the fan base freaks out. But assuming like for every one of those you lose, you beat somebody else.
A good team.
If you just win those 8 games and then show up to the rest, you're going to go 14-14.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you guys this. We're talking floor. Ceiling. Can they get to 60?
I hate saying no because I've said no to this team all year long, and they keep doing what you think they can't. I don't think so.
60 would be 23-5.
Yeah,
aggressive.
No chance.
Aggressive.
That's insane. That is insane.
That's bonkers.
I think like 57 is kind of what we're looking at there. if
I'm looking at
health is good, and I haven't even pulled the schedule.
I'm
That's a
looking
good
at
point,
I'm
Nick.
looking at 54.
That's a ceiling.
Yes,
So 50 as the floor, 54 as the ceiling.
I think so.
Thunder are 21-12 against teams above 500, by the way. So
Yeah.
that was
I think ceiling's closer to 58, 59. I think floor is 50.
Well, if you're saying like the best case scenario works out,
Right.
Yes. I guess
Right.
if that's ceiling, then
Yeah.
yes.
I think
expectation is
realistic.
54.
Yeah, I think realistic. I would go like 54, 55.
That's where exactly what I was thinking.
What was your record? Can we pull the clip preseason? What everyone was saying the record prediction was.
We do need.
I'll be the first to say I was 41-41, and this team's about to eclipse that before
I think
March.
I said. Did I go 45? I might have gone as low as 43.
I think I went slightly over, and I think the over/under was 43.5.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
going to beat,
I
guys. They're going
think
to
I
beat
said
the
45.
over/under by 10 plus.
they beat it by 16 the year before. Like this team is going to go like a positive 26 to 30 in a 2-year span.
I'll go on the record now. I think next year they hit under on their preseason over/under because I think
It'll be so astronomical.
next year's over/under from Vegas is going to be like 58.5.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, as it should, honestly.
you heard it here first, folks. 70 wins for the Thunder next season.
Even if they get bounced
Hammer
first
it.
round, like this is still a team that's proven they win in the regular season.
Yep.
Right.
Last season, their over/under from Vegas was like 23 wins.
That's
They won 40.
And our best case scenario podcast was our floor. We just outlined our floor of 50 wins. Our best case scenario podcast may have still been under that before the season started.
It's fair.
Like
Yes.
It'd be fun to go back and listen.
best case, yeah.
So it's a while to think about. We do need to pull that up and clip it.
All right.
Best case. I mean, obviously, worst case in the playoffs is like you get swept in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't think they're getting swept.
No.
What's the best case as far as the playoffs? Is it like how much is it matchup dependent? Like, do you think it's they have to draw the right matchup in order to advance? Or are they just good enough to like beat anybody out there on any given day in any given series? And where is the ceiling of like the end of the season? And where realistically do you think the end of the season happens?
I don't know where the ceiling is in the playoffs necessarily. Like I've tried to put a ceiling on the team all season, and we have not been able to define that ceiling yet exactly. So I have a hard time saying, like, I don't want to come out here and say the finals are the ceiling, but they just keep
I think
winning.
the finals is a little too ambitious. I'd go Western Conference finals
is probably the safest.
is like the ceiling.
Yeah, and I could see them. I could also see them getting eliminated in the first round in a 7-game series against the Lakers or the Warriors, and just because those teams know how the playoffs work.
Well, shit, it could be a 4-5 matchup too. Like it could be the Dallas Mavericks, the Phoenix Suns, who had a great close to the season and had momentum, and you fell to 4, and that's where you're at.
Yeah, I remember in Thunder 1.0, there were series that they would enter, and I would just feel confident, like, oh, they're winning that in 5.
The Portland series with Dame and PG.
That was the best. That was the clear, easiest path, baby. And then
I something I've been thinking about. I don't want to like turn this into a conversation, but something to think about. Maybe talk about it closer to. Shea talked about it All-Star Weekend. Like, what gets this team to the next level? And it was like playing
Time.
experience, basketball, and time, and like playoff reps. This team obviously just needs reps, and the more reps you can get, you go to the West Conference Finals. That's a lot more games, a lot more minutes. I think Mark has just as much pressure and or need for reps than the players do. Like
That's fair.
We could very easily be having a conversation this offseason of like, holy crap, Mark is the coach for the next decade. Or we could be having the conversation of, man, Mark didn't really adjust the right way. Is he the guy? Like now that the rebuild's over and they've got their guys, is Mark? Because when he got hired, I think all of us said Mark is the guy for the development. Mark may not be the guy long term.
I'll tell you what.
Right.
Some of the stuff they've done has me convinced, but we don't know until the playoffs.
We don't know.
We don't
And they're not going to like cut ties after 1 year, of
No,
course.
for sure.
But like the conversation around Mark, it's kind of been refreshing. We have not had to like criticize or talk about Mark's job security ever and we're not probably going to after one playoff series, but like after the Billy Donovan and Scott Brooks eras, where it's like every year we're talking about coach, is he the right coach, is he the guy? We haven't had to talk about that in like 5 years.
It's awesome.
He's done nothing
but
but
more
impressed,
confident
honestly.
about it than ever. Yeah.
Last one before we move on that I mentioned earlier. I want to circle the wagons back. I think the Thunder will be top 4 and have home court advantage, like Nick mentioned earlier. How much is winning a first round series matchup dependent? Like, and does that take anything away from this team? Or, I mean, everyone has a matchup that they like or they don't like, but like really good teams, it's hey, we're going to go win the series because we're the better team. Do you guys feel that way yet? Or is it very much a matchup dependent thing for this team, especially in the first round?
I don't really think it is, because with this team, we've seen them compete with the very best, like we've talked so much about. And here they are at second in the West, essentially first in the West, coming out of the All-Star break, 2/3 of the way through the season. So yes, I have references, obviously, of who I would prefer to play. Like if the Lakers or the Warriors are there, like, and they make it to the play-in, and we're like second in the West, and they're, 7th or 8th, whatever it may be, that's going to be a little more difficult of a matchup than maybe like the Pelicans in my mind. That being said, I'm not just say it in a 7-game series.
Playing the Warriors doesn't really worry me in the playoffs. Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe
those teams worry me more. Playing them first round worries me more about the Thunder's chances in the second round, honestly. And that's me being
the only thing that worries me about a Warriors series is Draymond hurting somebody.
It's a mental battle against the Warriors.
Right. And speaking of adjustments, I just think it would be a grind of a series, even though the Thunder should and probably will come out top. And that then
I think any first round series
round
is going to be a grind for them. I think they can beat the Warriors in the first round.
I think they can beat almost anybody in the first round. But then you're thinking about second round and third round.
As we watch this team close out this season, there's 28 games left. Take the bias out, please, if you can.
Never.
Are you more or less confident in this Thunder team winning a playoff series than you were the Kings a year ago when they entered the playoffs?
It's a good question.
I think there's some parallels. Like, obviously, the Thunder, I think, have been better than the Kings holistically. Like, they flirted with number 1 all year round. The Kings were kind of there for a little bit, but I think everybody kind of felt they were going to fall to where they did, kind of middle of the pack West in terms of like the 4-5 area.
I don't know.
I think the Thunder have more two-way guys than the Kings did last year, and that makes me feel better.
But also for me, like, it's impossible for me to take that bias out because the Kings were quite literally the Kangs up until last season. Like, literally,
they had good players. Like, you can rag on the front office all you want, but they had the players on the court are what matters, and they had a good roster.
So how did you like the Kings roster last season compared to the Thunder's this season, Nick? Because I think I would take the Thunder's roster this season, even though they obviously have not matched up well with the Kings in the regular season.
They have the better number 1 for sure in Shea. Like, there was nobody last year that was top 2 in MVP for the Kings. I would argue, though, while I would probably take like J-Dub and Chet and those guys long term, Fox and Sabonis and Malik Monk and the guys that like more experienced depth.
That was going to be my point.
Which you can kind of lean on in the playoffs. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think the Thunder's the 2023-4 Thunder are a better roster both now and in the future than the Kings last year.
Right.
But playoff wise, I think the Kings may actually, outside of like not having a number 1 guy, may actually have been similar.
I think it's a 7-game series, probably 6 or 7 games. I still worry more about the Warriors and the Lakers in a first round series because of that experience and depth that you've mentioned, or just the caliber of players like LeBron and AD, or Steph, Draymond, Clay, even though Clay's been awful, in comparison to Malik Monk and Fox and Sabonis, who have done it one time. And I guess the year prior to that, they're like made it through the plan. They don't worry me nearly as much, I think, as those other two in a first round series, even though I think the Thunder could win against either of those three teams. It's just a matter of like, how tough does that make the second round for this team, right?
I'll tell you this. We talk a lot about the experience factor in the playoffs and the fact that you need to go through it and see what it's like. It's not going to surprise me if the Thunder win their first round series in 6 games and play a second round series to 6 or 7 games. Like, the experience matters. I think sometimes we like fantasize that a little too much. At the end of the day, it's hoops. And against a lot of these teams, when push comes to shove and it's a grinded out, mucky, nasty half-court game, and it's 96-102 with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Thunder got the dude that can just go get you the freaking bucket.
2 of the dudes
who can just take over. And that's what you need in the playoffs. Like, you just need some MFers.
But so do the other teams. If you're playing the Suns, they got Book, Kevin, and Brad. If you're playing the Mavs, they got Luka and Kyrie. If you're playing the Kings, they got Sabonis and Fox. Like,
see, that's where I worry less about the Kings. But to your point,
just examples. Like 3 minutes left, close game in the playoffs. You're getting both those guys, just like you're giving them both your guys and get a bucket in possession. It's tough. Like, to Jacob's point, if the Thunder went to the Western Conference Finals, I would not be surprised. Like, if we're sitting here potting in the Western Conference Finals, I would say at this point in the season, not surprising. If they get bounced in the first in 6 games, I'm also not surprised.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
If they're podcasting in the Western Conference, if we are podcasting and they're in the Western Conference Finals, I will also have the Avatar arrow painted on my board.
Love it. We all might.
We all might.
There might be shirts. We might make like the Avatar arrow shirts and tie it all together.
Yeah. I'm gonna be stressed the hell out though for the playoffs.
I can't wait for that stress. That's fun stress.
I just want to see them play one game.
I don't know.
And then I will feel good.
I straight up dry heaved during the Chiefs' 3rd Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
Or I guess 4th Super Bowl run, 3rd Super Bowl win.
Humble brag.
It was like for the Thunder, I might be passed out. I might not even see game 6 of a Western Conference Finals. Takes me back though. Takes me back to the good old days.
Back to the 70
better days
point loss
fellas.
Or whatever it was.
Better days. Yeah. Silva's first post game.
Yeah.
Good times. Look at us now. Who would have thought, Silva?
I know. Look at us now. Holy hell. All right, let's take another break. We're going to do a quick mailbag because we're almost at an hour. Okay, it's time to open up the mailbag.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter.
Seeing if I had a mailbag sounder, I don't think I do.
I think that's a great one. We need Silva. We need Jacob singing the Blues Clues.
That's true.
I wonder who it's
Don't
from.
dogs chase mailmen away?
What the dog doing?
Beautiful.
Chasing the mailman away. Dropped off the mailbag.
When you get an email, it sounds like you're a ding sounder, Silva. There we go. We got some emails.
Oh, God, emails. All right. I'm going to read these off. We're just going to fire away. Jacob, I'm going to need your help on one of them because I haven't interacted with that property in a long time.
Okay.
All right. Number 1 from Cam Werner on Twitter. He asks, as a brand new Thunder fan, who are my biggest rivals and why do I hate them with the passion of 1,000 burning stars?
Ooh, this is a fun one.
Who's the rivals?
Nick, who's the number 1 rival right now?
Are we talking Twitter rival or actual rival?
Yes.
Okay.
This person is on Twitter.
It all funnels.
If you're a new fan, who are you telling them to hate?
I would say Minnesota's in the conversation. Although I think it's more
we hate
one-sided.
Edward. Hey.
Yeah, I think it's one-sided, but I think that's a thing. I think the Rockets is more of a social media than it is a real.
The Rockets was high on my list.
It's not real because they're like not a team without Fred VanVleet currently.
Yeah,
they're like 1-6.
Ooh,
Draymond Green is on the list. You hate Draymond Green and everything he does ever.
And the Warriors for historical purposes.
I think Dallas is a kind of up there, especially if the playoffs this season end up the way we think it could, like there's a real chance they play each other.
Yeah.
In the first round. I would say if I were to forecast, I think the grit and grind Grizzlies and the Thunder, like 3 years from now, we're talking about like phase 2 or era 2 of those two being a rivalry. Today it's not because they suck because their team's either suspended or hurt. But I think that there's a real possibility that next year, when everyone's back, that they're once again a contender, and
that could be a good
City's
one.
up there. So
all ESPN and TNT announcers, gotta hate them. They're on the list.
Yeah. Okay, you guys are. I can't believe it. My number 1 is easily the Rockets. I'm going to quickly walk you through this here, Cam. Okay, so you had the Harden trade in 2013, and then Harden explodes that next season. In the interim, you have a bunch of playoff battles between the Thunder and the Rockets. Then you have the then you have the Russ versus Harden MVP debate, which is maybe the biggest MVP debate we've had ever in the history of the league. Then you have the CP3 for Russ trade, and the Thunder in the bubble go 7 games with the Rockets, and Harden gets that block off Lou Dort from 3 when Dort had his Dorty 40. And now you have this debate about whose rebuild is better, and I love that the Rockets are going all in. Why don't the Thunder do that? And
you got the Alperen Şengün trade.
Yeah, the Alperen Şengün trade. It's the Rockets easy.
Şengün, top 3 player in the last 3 draft classes, I've heard on Twitter.
And now they want to trade Jalen Green to build around Şengün. Like, what a time. My, how the turntables.
Yeah, I've seen Jalen Green needs to play on a team that's not good, so we need to trade him. It's like, guys, what do you think? What's going on?
Maybe don't trade for Fred VanVleet. And
you are that team.
You are that team.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you guys said all the good ones. There's like there's a lot brewing. Like Knicks Memphis thing. I don't know if you saw. So the Thunder have been doing the barking thing, and in one Memphis post game, I saw Ja say something afterwards about like, no, we're the ones that do that. And I don't know who it was, him and Jaren Jackson and maybe Gigi Jackson were all kind of doing that.
And they were doing it on Instagram Live.
And Instagram Live.
No guns were involved.
No guns were involved. And then the Dallas thing is really brewing. Maybe that's just me because I'm just angry when I watch.
We forget that like from 2011 to 2019, the Mavs and Thunder played in the playoffs like 4 times. The Thunder dominated besides 2011. Obviously the Mavs won it all that year, but like that was a very common playoff series.
We haven't even talked Chet Wemby.
That's another foreshadowing.
Yeah,
I think the Spurs are not a year or 2 years away from being a contender. They're a year or 2 years from being like interesting. They're not interesting at all this year, but they're a ways from being a contender.
Yeah, you have a lot of good options, Cam.
Yeah,
basically
Cam.
Everybody hates OKC.
Hate everybody.
We stole the team from Seattle.
Let the hate embrace you.
Yeah. Hating is fun, actually. It turns my blood into lightning. All right, next one. Owen on Twitter asks, will Gordon Hayward take over Josh's spot in the starting lineup? And if so, how soon will it be? I know we talked about this on a recent pod. We could just do a quick rapid fire.
28 games left. He takes it. Game 16.
I think Nick and I agree on this one. I don't think Josh ever takes over the starting position from Hayward, but he closes the games, and that's what matters. Nick was all over this.
The inverse of that. Take the inverse of what Taylor just said, because he said the opposite. Gordon will not take Josh's starting spot, but he will close a lot of games. I agree.
Correct. That's what I meant. Thank you. Got my best man on it.
I second that. I don't know if he's ever going to officially supplant him until the playoffs. All right.
Fair.
Next one. Cody Spicer on Twitter asks, let's say the Thunder make it to the second round, have a good series, but drop it. If Hayward does make a difference as a role player, what would you feel okay with his next? What would his next contract have to look like for you guys to feel okay in terms of length and money and options?
2 for 30.
Oh, I was going to go like 2 for 22.
I was saying 2 for 30 with it, but with a team option in the second year.
You ready? You ready for this? Here is the order of operations of what happens this summer. Draft night. Thunder make a trade with picks to go get an established player to come to this team. Maybe it includes Josh Giddey. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Then they renegotiate a new contract with Isaiah Joe. They then exercise the team option to make Aaron Wiggins a free agent and sign a new contract with him. Lock him up long term. The Isaiah Joe contract will come in at a number that will shock people, but I think under market value. I'm thinking like 17, 18 a year.
Lou Dort's number shocked people too right away.
Nick, are you saying that's too low for Isaiah?
Way too low.
I think so too.
History tells us that shooters get paid more than that in the year 2021, and we're in the year 2024.
Hey, what was that?
My Siri is going off behind me. I'm sorry.
And then the Thunder, after they are over the luxury or over the cap, after they make the off-balance trade, extend those two guys, then they re-sign Gordon Hayward with bird rights to somewhere between 2 years, 20 to 2 years, like 26.
Let me tell you that I completely agree with your order of operations. This thing should happen. But in 2024, with player mobility and movement and things, you never re-sign all the guys you want. It just doesn't happen. So I think one of the guys you described before, Gordon Hayward, will be gone.
Okay.
Maybe not this summer, but like longer term, whether it's trade or free agency. I don't think Sam let anybody like walk. But the reality is, in 3 years, 50% of the roster will be different. That's just how the league works. As much as we love Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins and Gordon Hayward, like they're not all. It's not like this is the team, and they're gonna like re-sign everybody and then just like add some guys. Like there's gonna be a lot of movement. I agree with your logic, though. I still think that Gordon Hayward. The question was if he is a difference maker, would he re-sign him for? And my assumption is if he's a difference maker, he gets the 2 for $30.
It's fair.
I keep coming back to this, but I think so many Thunder fans obviously get so attached to a lot of these players, as we all do. And they keep thinking like, okay, the Thunder casualties of them emerging from this rebuild are the players like the Trey Mans and the Darius Baisleys. That's not the case. It may not even be Josh Giddey. And I think Nick's on to something with the Aaron Wiggins and the Isaiah Joes. So it's just something to keep an eye on, not necessarily this summer, but moving forward. I think Nick brings up a really good point.
I was thinking back to the Kenrich Williams extension summer and how they kind of kept everybody around and kind of surprised us with the renegotiations.
Kenrich is another good name.
So we'll see. Silva, next question.
Next question from our guy Clark Matthews on Twitter. He asks, to which house would Thunder players pledge their banners in Game of Thrones?
This is a great one.
I get deep on this one.
He said Jacob.
I don't know how much time we have.
I know. We could go long on this one.
Could get real deep on this one. Man, this one's difficult. Like, is Chet House Lannister? Kind of like the cocky flame boy, swag kid. He could definitely be some Lannister.
I've got SGA for House Martell, with the the swagger, the no shirt underneath the jacket, like that is Shea to a T. Okay. The warm weather, I like that one. The other one I had was Lou Dort, House Baratheon. Robert Baratheon going into war with like his headset and all that with the hammer, like Lou Dort right by his side. Just those are my two.
I'm not a huge. I love Game of Thrones. I'm not a huge I don't listen to the podcast and like look at the map afterwards and where these places are at. Like I don't get that deep. I have a question for Jacob, maybe since he's the Game of Thrones expert.
I'm ready.
Who is Reek on this team?
Poku.
Oh no!
100%.
Lord have mercy.
100% it is Poku. That breaks
what
my
is
heart.
dead may never die and rises again. Poku still alive, baby.
Doesn't Reek end up being a really good guy though, or no?
What is dead may never die but rises again.
After he got his nuts dropped off.
Maybe Poku ends up being like the difference in a playoff series.
He lost his
There we
way.
go.
J-Dub, aka the King of the Fourth, has got to be House Stark, right?
100%.
And I had Kenrich Williams in there as well.
Nice.
Grizzly,
that's a good one.
made for the North.
I'd maybe put Shea as
battle-tested.
like House
Targaryen?
Targaryen. Little Azora High going on there. The prince that was promised.
A little bit. A little bit.
Ooh.
Is Gordon Hayward or Josh Giddey House Greyjoy? I feel like it's got to be one of them.
No, Josh Giddey is House Tyrell.
Oh, you're right.
It literally blows my mind that you guys are talking about these houses and
You're
what
right.
you're talking about. What about the redheaded guy with the beard that's not in the house? He's like a
the
hands
wildling?
guy.
Yeah,
wildling.
the
Who are the
North?
wildlings on this team?
That's a good question.
Good or bad? It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right,
Those
right,
guys are
right.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Silva's definitely
Wildlings are
that.
like barbarian badasses who don't
That doesn't sound like me.
don't have a king, kind of fend for themselves.
That's Silva.
Oh my God.
Who does that fit on this team?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's damn sure not Usman Jang.
That is true. Usman Jang is
He's like the prince that's been locked away for his entire life.
No,
and has never seen a life
Grey Worm.
experience.
he's Grey Worm.
Worm.
Who the hell is that?
The eunuch fighter. that
Oh,
went
no.
with, Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh.
Huh. No clues. You're saying,
Buried
but
Usman with that one.
It's a lot of names.
The
and
Unsullied.
words.
It's
The
all coming
Unsullied.
back to
Thank
me.
you.
The Unsullied.
Thank
It's all
you,
coming
the
back.
Unsullied.
All right. Thanks for playing
That
on
was
Matt
fun.
Clarkson
We
said
could go-
Kenrich is the wildling on the team.
Yeah, that's probably
That's
a good one.
That's
It's a
fair.
good
Better
one.
than Start. Hell Start.
All right. Last one. Mookie on Twitter asks, anyway, does Bismack end up as the main backup five? He said he looked at some clips. He had some 15-point, 15 rebound games. Would like him to back up Chet so we don't lose
My
our
guy
paint
got
protection.
sucked down the YouTube hole.
He
When
did.
you watch the highlights, you're like, why isn't every team beating down the door for this guy? He's incredible.
Yeah.
Jay Will's the backup.
Disagree.
Ooh.
He's going to say Kenrich.
I'm not going to say Kenrich either. There is not a right answer to this
Oh.
question. The answer to the question is depending on the matchup, depending on the night, depending on the situation, as Mark alluded to, situational. Jay Will, Kenrich, and Bismack will be the backup center based on the situation. There will never, ever, ever, ever be, at least on this year's Thunder team, a every night backup center. That ain't how this
that's
team
fair.
works.
Nick, let me ask you. They play the Clippers tomorrow, the Wizards on Friday. Denny Avdia comes to town just to mock me. The following 3 games at Rockets, home versus Rockets, at Spurs. Do we see Bismack in one of those next 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
JD, do you agree?
Hell yeah.
Okay, here we go. Bismack has those next 5. He has 16 rebounds. Agree, disagree.
Oh, total?
Total.
I thought you were saying in one game. I
Oh,
was
no.
like, God dang, Nick.
He's an animal.
Sure, I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll agree with you.
Yeah. Why not? All right. We're about to get out of here. I like this question from Nick Jordan. Off topic. Who is Adam Flagler? Who is Adam Flagler? That's a basketball player, isn't it?
He's a member of the Thunder franchise, Silva. He is a
Oh,
NBA
you're right.
champion.
There he is.
He's a small guard, like you talk about.
NCAA champion, not NBA champ.
Yeah.
Right.
He
Baylor,
is,
former Baylor guard.
He is another Jared Butler, where he not like the same skill set because they're actually kind of different. Undersized guard that likely will never be a starting or even like a 6th man backup point guard, but he's interesting as like a younger college seasoned, has won a lot of games kind of guy.
Okay.
I like it.
Now we know who Adam Flagler is. Anything else before we get out of here, boys?
I'm excited for basketball.
We love basketball.
Starts back up tomorrow.
Who's got the podcast tomorrow night?
Good question.
I have no idea.
That would be a good thing for us to know.
It would.
Somebody will be.
If only somebody
hopefully-
like Jacob owned the spreadsheet and could tell us.
It is Taylor
Humble.
Peterson tomorrow.
Oh,
I got Friday night after the Wizards game.
Damn.
So
Very
join the Denny Avdia fan club podcast Friday night.
there we go.
Will he go
Jacob's
for
doing that
40
one
or
with
he go
his
for
shirt off.
4? What's more likely?
4. J-Dub's putting the clamps on him.
Thunder Killer Denny Avdia.
Gordon
Add him
Hayward
to the
scoring
list.
50.
All right, that's enough Denny Avdia talk for one night. Thank you guys for listening to our podcast. Thanks for joining us in the live stream, giving us your sparks of the week, leaving us comments. They're always very funny. Thanks for listening to us afterwards. We'll see you guys tomorrow night after the Clippers game at the Thunder hopefully win. But until then, adios and Thunder up.